And today we are interviewing Abri Angelis, and she is coming to us from Mexico City. Welcome, Abri.
Yeah, thank you, Patrice. It's really nice to be here.
Now, I am so pumped about this interview because when I saw what you specialize in, I was like, man, I have done some work in this area, but to know that someone specializes specifically in this, and when I say I've done some work, it was maybe two projects. So let's not inflate it. But Abri is a visual science communication specialist. And I will now let her tell us about what that is, how you got started, and how long you've been doing it.
Okay, well, I'm going to start from the very beginning. That it was when I was a kid. My parents will have all these beautiful books because they are biologists. So
Okay.
that's when everything started. There was this beautiful selection of books of time life, and there was like one about the sea, mammals, all that. And I started seeing the images. Of course, I was like, because I couldn't read, so I start with the images. Then I start reading a little bit more about that. And I was so into these images that when I need to decide what was like the bachelor degree that I should have, I was between biology and design. And design entered in my life because I met a student from graphic design, and she told me about the psychology of color. And I was shocked. I
Uh-huh.
was like, oh my god, you can like move the mind of the people
Mm-hmm.
with color. And I was like, oh my god, I want to do that. And it was really difficult to decide between biology and design, but I choose design and I don't regret it. But like when I was finishing my bachelor degree, I was like, I need to do something more. And I told that to a teacher, and she said, I know a researcher. And she took me with her, and she's a botanist. And she said, well, I can't teach you. I have a ton of things to do. And I was like, please, I want to do some work with you. And I took all my work from the bachelor degree because my specialization, it was on illustration. So I
Mm-hmm.
was like, oh, these are my works. And she said, well, okay, I will accept you. And there was an illustrator, a scientific illustrator, that told me, okay, I'm going to lead, give you this information so you can start. So it was very much a self-taught.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, it was really difficult. I was in tears sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like a good path that I went to, because it was really difficult. Although I have all this knowledge from the scientific background that I have from my parents, sometimes it was difficult because I didn't know like the specifics to work on this. But I was really, you know, um, driven.
Mm-hmm.
So I started working on something more than illustrations, and I started doing some design. And that's when the researcher said, "Oh, you do that too?" And she started like opening that path for me. So
Okay.
that was in 2005. It looks like a long time ago, and kind of it is, because I have some more projects, and I get into this. Of course, I have this like path between like normal graphic design. I call it normal,
You call it normal?
yeah, because this is a specialized way. I have two diplomas in public understanding of science and illustration of the natural history. And my thesis was about that, like the bachelor one. It was about the way to get into this. scientific path doing illustration and, well, botanical illustration, because it's really specialized how you work with scientists, and you need to be trained to understand what they are saying.
Mhm.
And that's the specialization that I have. And well, with all these diplomas and workshops and all that I'm getting, I decided to write about that on my master thesis, because I went into, well, into the university again, and I wanted to talk about this relationship between design and science, because there is like this point that uh, well, we are interconnected. So with these visuals, you can communicate what the scientists are doing, and, well, to a wider audience, and they can understand better what's going on. It's like
Right.
the knowledge is not just in this place that it's scientists, but you can spread it with design. That's what I'm doing.
Okay. All right. So, you bridge some gaps with common ecological issues. What are some of those issues that you've been able to provide design to help the wider audience get an understanding of? Like, what are some hot issues basically that you found that you've created several works to help get that public understanding of it?
One that it was really important is alien invasive species. Because,
Okay.
well, we don't know what is that until you find out. And it's when, for example, an animal, well, I think that people know about what happened with rabbits on Australia, that they were not from Australia, but someone took a rabbit,
Them over. Okay.
and that's the classic example. But that doesn't happen just with animals, it happens with plants as well. And
Mm,
with plants, yeah, or with insects. And an insect that it's not from a country, it can devastate, for example, crops from corn or from wheat, whatever you call it. So it can cause alimentary crisis or food
right.
crisis. So it's really important. Also, it is not something that we know. Like in the airports, you can see that you can travel with some, I don't know, like cheese or meat or something
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
that, or seeds. But it's because of that. But people, it's not aware of that. So we work in this project to let people know how to prevent that, because there are like really tiny things. For example, if you go to the countryside, and some seeds are stuck in your insoles, well,
Mm-hmm.
in the
Mm-hmm.
you can spread that. So
Yeah.
something really simple, that you just wash your shoes, and that's it, for example. And that's one of the projects that I did. It was an infographic with all the basic information. I mean, we were like, we can work more in that, but the project ended. So well, there's a lot of things to do in this area. For example, turtle protection, there's another project that I work on. And there is a beautiful beach in Mexico. It's called Akumal,
Mm-hmm.
and you can have like a dive with the turtles. But if there's like a increase of public going into the beach, well, they get into the way of the food with, well, the turtles have. So if the turtles don't have anything to eat, there's no way the turtles come back. And of course, this is
Oh,
a
okay.
problem not just for ecology but economic, for the
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
for the town that's well, with the people. And that's how I understand that it's not just about ecology, but it's about economy. And as a designers, we have, well, we if we want, we have the duty of contribute to these problems, because it's not just like a tiny thing. It's not just to protect the turtles. It's just to protect the economy of the people, and of course the environment, and plants, and everything is a system, so everything
Right.
is interconnected.
Right, exactly. And in this climate that we're in globally now with COVID-19, and it's really causing us to pause and take a look at just what you're explaining, how it's all interconnected. It's a system, and there are people, plants, animals, all a part of that system that helps to not only keep us healthy, thriving, but also to keep us financially stable as well. So it's very it's a good practice to honor everything in the system. So yeah, so you're doing some very important work. Now, I know you mentioned that you've done print projects and digital projects. So give me an example, or let everybody know an example of a project that you would do in print and digital. And if you have a case study or whatever, that's cool to include, just so we can have an understanding of how you use both deliverable channels.
Yeah, well, actually, there was a project with the University of Plymouth and Devon in the UK, and what I did, it was illustration, and it was for a geothermal project. It's like to convincing people that geothermal energy is a sustainable way of energy. And what I did, it was like a word cloud, because there's this like project for like a research project about geothermal energy in Cornwall, especially. And there are like certain points that they're like most like hot points, where the geothermal energy is bigger. So we did this like merge between the geographical points and the word cloud of the research. So because that's going to be, well, that was a project to be printed, to present it to authorities, and also to share, because they were hashtags. The word cloud was hashtags about how people respond to the geothermal energy, what was the attitude towards it. So that was like a printed and digital project that was.
Okay.
So that's one of the main ones that I have, because sometimes um, we don't want to print that much.
Okay. That was my next question. So
Yeah.
how much more do you do digital versus print? That was my next question.
Yeah, digital is, I think, right now is the best way to work on. Of course, we have this CO2 print using our phones and our, Macs or whatever we're using. Uh, but printing, well, in we are generating trash, and that's something that we want to avoid. Uh, but sometimes you need it. You need like the physical thing. Sometimes,
Yeah,
uh,
because our audiences are so varied. They even though they're young people, everybody doesn't gravitate towards digital. Some people, uh, biologically or physically, they can't take all of that sensory, coming at them. So I don't know if we'll ever be at a place where we're all digital. Um, and I say, as long as the Bible is still in print, we probably won't ever, we probably won't ever be a print free society globally. But I've, in working with people over the years, just understanding different physical limitations and understanding how electronic devices, just don't work with everyone's anatomy. And I wasn't really aware because I love electronic devices, but
Mhm.
being sensitive to that, being sensitive to light and other things, like, it's just the more we get to know each other, the more we know everything doesn't work for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I love the way book smells, and
Oh, yeah.
of having the book. But I have to turn into, you know, a electronical device, because most of my research was on PDFs, like electronic PDFs sometimes.
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
I need to, you know, make that switch at some point.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, well, that's something we need to accustom to. But yeah, there's people that doesn't work with digital, or they are far from the devices most of the time,
Mhm.
or they're
Mhm.
physical, you know. And
Mhm.
but yeah, we need to turn our eyes to the digital, because it's something that you can stop. You know, like Adobe, it's making these Adobe Max talks these days, and they're like releasing a ton of stuff for digital. I didn't see any
Yeah.
printing, and
Right.
that was something that was like, okay, this is the future. This is what's happening now.
Well,
Um,
I also find that a lot, even though we have more information coming at you in a digital format, a lot of people miss 50% or 75% because the volume is too much to keep up with. So
yeah,
I don't know when we're going to figure out that balance of allowing people time to digest the information
yeah,
instead of being worried about refreshing so quickly, you know?
yeah, exactly. I think that well, that's something I work well. I mentioned in my master thesis, and it was like the lack of attention of people when they have so much information, they don't get
Mhm.
everything that you're saying. And something that happens on Facebook, they have this 1 or 2 seconds attention, and you can engage someone with that time, but that's really
That's
tiny
it.
amount of time.
It
Yeah,
is. Like if I blink and look away, just like you just did, I missed it.
yeah.
I missed it. So yeah. So let me ask you this. How do you find clients?
Well, I there's really really difficult sometimes. I have to say that's something that I'm working on, because what I'm doing, I know that a lot of designers are working on that right now, but 10 years ago or more, there was something that it was unthinkable. And it was like knocking doors. And
Mhm.
sometimes it was, you know, um, word of mouth. That
Mhm.
people say like, oh, you know, I know this girl that does these things, and she can help you with that. She can help you
Mhm.
with your posters, or she can help you with whatever image that you need, or illustrations. And it was recommendation basically.
Okay.
And well, I am in this new um, era of my work that I need to go wider. That's what I
Mhm.
want to do, and start looking for other clients, because yeah, they're hard. They're hard to accept sometimes, the designer's work. Yeah, because they're like really focused on research and scientific research. So it's something that they have budget just for the research, not
Mhm.
for other stuff. And
Yeah.
sometimes, you know how arts and designs, well,
Mhm.
are seeing in the ways of the scientific view,
Yeah.
like, oh, you don't need that, you just need to have this scientific knowledge, and that's everything. But no, we're more than that. And
Yeah.
that's something that there are some scientists that they're like um, going into theater, poetry, they're, you know, going into arts, but design, it's, you know, it's not seen that much. And
The
uh,
visual arts don't carry much weight as performing arts.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's something that I think is the next step for design and science. That's something that I really want to do, to make like not a hub, but to gather more designers and make a community, designers that work for science. That's something that will um, make us stronger in this niche, I think.
And I think here in the Graphic Designers Hub, it could be your starting point for that.
Yeah.
to invite other, environmental um, or visual science communication specialists to the group to start engaging here. And that way, you don't have to do the heavy lifting of managing the group. You'll spark communication, questions, statements, and things like that that will bring in the engagement. So you'll have a place to do that kind of thing. And once you grow into the thousands, then you can create your own Facebook group to do that.
Oh, thank
But
you very
the
much.
hub, it has become, and I hate to toot my own horn, but it's just been a safe place for us to engage, to be positive, to help one another without the competition or feeling like, oh, you're snatching my client, you're doing this, you do. That's not the environment we have here. So I would encourage you to start conversations, post, make posts in there related to this specific niche. And there could be other illustrators in the group who might want to get into this path or this field and specialization. So that's another place to start that engagement there. So the group is really the place.
Oh, thank you very much.
Now I have one more question for you.
Yeah.
How has your work impacted your personal life? Because looking through this different lens, it must affect you, in some type of way because you're doing a great work.
Thank you. Well, I've been doing some changes on the way I manage like simple tasks like recycling or
Mhm,
you know, not buying stuff that I don't need. Um,
mhm.
there were some things that I already did that it was, for example, not throwing garbage in the street or something like that. That's
Yeah, yeah.
basic stuff. But that encouraged my family as well to do some changes in their lives. And it's not just me. It's you need to talk and up and act, um, but people will follow if they see you as an example. And yeah, I think it's tiny things, like not printing that much, sending emails instead of other kind of stuff. I don't know. It's been really hurtful sometimes to see what people does because they don't have the information that I have.
Mhm.
Um, and I try to spread the word, and that's what I do sometimes in Facebook, Diseñadores Verdes, the page that I run, and that's some simple things like put the trash in a can, and
Mhm.
separate uh, like the garbage. Put some plants in your place, for example. Don't use that much the devices, like turn it off when you're not working in there, things like that that I used to do, um, you know back then. uh, but yeah, I'm more
Yeah.
careful. Yeah, sorry.
No, I thought you were done with your sentence, but I was gonna say all of those things that you talked about, it made me think, yeah, I, I don't have a green thumb, but I've made an effort to put more plants in my place. I love Alexa. She helps me make sure my children turn off lights.
Oh, yeah, right.
I
Yeah,
have solar panels. I have rain barrels to catch water,
yeah, it's amazing.
rainwater. I have a rain garden, you know. So I've done things and I'm really excited about those things, but uh, it birthed in me a desire to be a better steward of natural resources.
Yeah.
So that's what made me ask the question, like, how did this impact you in that way? And I think I had only done, like I said, two projects related to this, but it changed my thought process and my perspective. So I started looking for ways that I could improve things, even buying recyclable shoes,
Oh,
shoes made of the recycled materials. So doing things like that to help the environment. So I encourage everybody to get on the sustainable path and start doing some things like that. Um, but how can people get in contact with you?
Oh, they can go into my Facebook page, that is Diseñadores Verdes on Facebook. And at my email, it's abril.angeles at gmail.com. Or AB, well, you can um, put it in the video. And yeah, I think it's the way that they can contact me.
Okay, all right. And I'm gonna post your website because I think that had a lot of information there. When I went there, it was like comprehensive, that and the Facebook group. And so they should be able to reach you. And you can reach a Bree here in the Graphic Designers Hub Facebook group.
Yeah, I sent my presentation already. I think
Okay.
they're like in review.
Hmm.
Yeah, they can search on the hub and
Okay.
find. Yeah.
All right. So we look forward to seeing those posts that you create so you can start connecting with other visual communication scientists like yourself. And it was great. It was awesome talking to you and learning about your niche.
Thank you very much for having me here.
All
It's
right.
a pleasure. Okay, bye.
Mhm.